I'm here to talk about Islam. Wallahu Akbar. That sound is repeated 5 times a day in 57 Islamic states. Would you like to hear that here 5 times a day? No, I don't want to hear it not one more time. I listened to it far too many times. I've worked in diplomatic service. It's not one where you wear a tie and a silk coat all the time. I was the guy that did stuff in the back room and did some funny things. I went to a few cocktail parties. I drank some Russians under the table at time, and that was interesting. Those real challenges. We spent 25 years overseas. Our last assignment was in Japan, and I really loved it there. It was the first place we'd been in 15 years where we could drink the water from the tap. That's what the third world is about. In 1998, I got sick with antibiotic-resistant pneumonia, and I was in a hospital for 20 days, several of them in a coma. At one point, they brought in the pastor to deliver my last rites. I was dying. And then they came along and said, well, if you sign here on this dotted line, the FDA has approved use of this experimental medicine, and it only kills 3 out of 5 people that it's used on. When I came out of the coma, I didn't die. So anyways, but I was 20 days in a hospital with pneumonia really depletes a person, especially when you get to be an old fart. And I was slowed down. It took me a long time to get well, and I lost the work I had. We lost our house, and things went kind of south for us. I got down and I got on my knees and I asked God, what do you want from me? What can I do? What can we do for each other? And God took a long time in getting around to replying. Part of the reply was 9/11. I was sitting down with my Wheaties, watching Katie Couric on the television, and they were talking about a plane having flown into a building, and the picture was panning over the one Tower 2, I think, and I saw this plane bank and slam into the other one. I was not surprised. I was not dismayed. I was just instantly furious because I knew exactly what it meant. There was an attack on the United States of America, and people died. 3,000 innocent people died that day, and that was brought about by Osama bin Laden. He was doing that because he couldn't blow up embassies anymore in some of the countries where I had served. One of my claims to fame is that in 1983, the American embassy in Beirut, Lebanon was blown up. And one of my closest friends was the deputy chief of station for the CIA there. He was killed, along with 62 other people. A few months later, they'd moved into another building, and that was blown up again. And then the embassy in Kuwait was blown up. I was going through some university training with the State Department. I had finished up. I checked in the State Department. I didn't have any onward assignments, so I was looking for something to do, and somebody said, go talk to this guy over here, because you've got a background. I've made things bomb-proof in Cambodia, and I've done that in other countries before. So I went and I talked to Bob, and Bob said, well, we are 22 people, and we report to Secretary of State Schultz. There's nobody else in the bureaucracy that we have to deal with. And I want you to join my team, and I'm assigning you to the Persian Gulf and 2 countries in North Africa. Go make them bomb-proof. Okay, I'm willing to do that. What's the criteria? Wing it. That was my reply, because there was no criteria for making embassies bomb-proof. So I went up to Aberdeen Proving Grounds with a couple of other guys, and we made things go boom for a week and a half. And then we organized some teams and brought some people in and took off. And my first assignment was Manama, Bahrain. They were building a bomb. They were getting ready to blow the embassy up. And we decided that we had to tear down the walls and reinforce some stuff around the embassy. It was a 450-year-old building built out of camel dung and sand. And the landlord would not let us do it. We're saying, well, the place is vulnerable. We had intelligence somebody's building a bomb. They want to blow the place up. Can't touch it. So, frustrated, sat down and got some Heineken beer one night with the architect. We had a few beers. And I woke up in the morning and I had this scribbled mess on a napkin. Went down to breakfast and we would do a better sketch on it. And I said, yes, we're going to do that. I was the team leader. So we went out that morning and we scouted around. We found some contractors, saw some of the work that they did. And by the afternoon, we had a contractor working. And we put around that embassy building, we couldn't do anything to the walls, 90 of what I called at the time flower pots. They were 3 feet high, 3 feet deep, 9 feet wide, made out of 8 inches of reinforced concrete. We drove piles into the ground, and then we used 5/8 aircraft cable to tie them together all the way around the embassy with a serpentine approach. And we had 3-inch pipe on chains, so when you went over it, you bounced every which direction. If you went more than 3 miles an hour, you slammed into a wall. I went back to Washington, turned in my report to the boss, and the boss said, "What the hell did you do?" We built, well, the State Department contractor was Sandia National Laboratories. They built 2 of them out in the desert. When they got cured and set up, they ran a military deuce and a half with 5 tons of sandbags into it at 55 miles an hour and destroyed the truck. Now they have them, you see them in Sacramento, around the Capitol building. They went around the White House. They're round and they're marble clad, but basically it's a real high-tech security. It's a big object filled with sand, dirt, flowers, and water. And they were very effective. And we put them around the embassies all over the world. The bad guys in Bahrain abandoned their bomb. They put my name, my picture on a dartboard. And it's probably still there, but anyways, that was very successful. I went on to do that to several other embassies, and other people picked up on it. We finished up our work. We went to the Congress, and he said, we're done, but there are a lot of embassies that still need it. And Congress said, no, you don't need it anymore. So later on, Nairobi, Tanzania, they were blown up. Thank you to the Congress. I wrote my book after 9/11. Experiencing Islam. It's back there. It was censored by the CIA, the State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and had input from the White House National Security Agency. Because I had these super clearances, anything I write about government operations, I had to submit for censorship review. And they were dragging their feet on it. I had to make a few phone calls. I had to get my congressman involved. Congressman Ice was very helpful. And it was finally released after almost a year. I published it. I had to self-publish it because publishing houses wouldn't take it. It was too politically incorrect. The publishing houses have people who have bought in with stock, and they put people on the board, and those people, or those stockholders, are Muslims. They use their position with the publishing houses to prevent things from being published that they don't want out there. There's a copy of it back there in the back room. I hope you have the time or the wherewithal to go and get a copy of it. You will really, really enjoy it. It's one of these things that you read and you go, and then you continue reading, so you're not going to get a lot of sleep if you try reading it at night. I have another book back there that I've written. It's called Religion in the Workplace. It's for managers and business owners and organizational leaders, because you've all heard about what's happened with Dell. They had some Muslim workers who decided they wanted to do something, and Dell said, you can't do it. The Council on American-Islamic Relations showed up with some lawyers, sued them, and Dell lost the case because they didn't know what they were dealing with, their lawyers didn't know what they were dealing with, and the judges did not understand. It's happened at Swift Packing Company. It's happened to hundreds of companies around the country, and it's costing them millions of dollars because they are being forced and they are being compelled to accommodate Muslims in their workplaces. If these guys want to get down in the middle of the shop floor and pray, you can't stop them. Well, I took this care guideline that they very courteously wrote up and provided to business owners all over the country, how to accommodate, how to kiss the butts of Muslims in your workplace. And I took it apart paragraph by paragraph by paragraph by paragraph, showing how it's a bunch of baloney. I quoted the Quran. I've quoted Islamic teachings because I've read the Quran 3 times. I've read the Sirah. I've been working on the Ahadith. The Ahadith is 25 volumes. I'm never going to get through it. But I go through and I dispel every claim or everything that the CAIR says you have to accommodate. For instance, Muslims don't have to pray at the same time every day. 5 times a day, fine. But according to the Quran and according to the teachings of Muhammad, if you are busy, occupied, or if you are at war, if you are killing Christians or killing Jews, or you are making money, or you are robbing somebody, or just plain laying around getting a little session with your wife in the tent, you don't have to pray. You can make up your prayers in the evening. You can do your 5 prayers in the evening. And companies don't know that, but you put it into your work rules. You put it into your work plan. And you can take and you can stop that kind of nonsense from coming into your organization. It's even happened to churches that have hired Muslims, and now they can't fire them because God knows whatever, but they're going to be buried by the Council on American Islamic Relations in a bunch of lawsuits. I'm working on more books, and I will be getting going on them before long. I am an activist in opposition to Islamic efforts to colonize America, and they are here. They are all over the country, and it's like the capillaries under your skin. Every time you turn around, there's more coming up. They're growing up like weeds on the farm. We have to find ways to deal with them and stop them. They keep saying, well, Islam is a religion, and we have the First Amendment, and we can practice our religion anyway and anytime we want. Well, Islam, I don't worry about religious Islam. I think there's wonderful for people of whatever color, whatever background, to seek personal salvation and a relationship with God. But only 12% to 15% of Islam is focused on salvation. The other 85% is focused on destruction and control of the infidels. You. Okay? You are an infidel. You are a kafir. You are despised because you are not Muslim. And in their laws, the Sharia law you've heard about, Muslims are up here. Everybody is down here, second-class citizens. And they have that dualistic system in all of those countries. I had a friend in Turkey who was driving his car one day, stopped for a stop sign. He got rear-ended. His car was destroyed. The guy that hit him destroyed his car. They went to court. And the court said, well, you're a Christian. You lose. Pay for the guy's Mercedes. Because that's what their laws are. That's what Sharia is about. If you go to court, you do not win. If you kill a Muslim, you don't even get a trial. You're killed. If a Muslim kills a Christian, he might have to pay a little fine. That's the way Sharia law works. And we're all going to face this one way or another. People ask me, why, at my age, am I even worried about that? They're not here in that big of a number in this country yet. They're not doing anything yet. And I say, yes, I'm really very much cognizant of that. I'll be long gone and buried by the time they start kicking it up. But I have grandchildren. You have grandchildren. I'm going to have great-grandchildren. I may never meet them. I may. I don't know. But we're going to have future generations, and I want those future generations to share in an America that is freedom, a land of liberty, where they don't have to bow down and stick their butt up in the air as a Muslim, or bow down and pay a special tax every day to the Muslims so the Muslims don't have to work, but they do. We're doing that now. We're taxpayers. We got the government bringing in 20,000 Islamists a month from Somalia, from Iraq, from Syria. And they get off the plane, they get a check, and they start getting a check every month. And they're not expected to get a job. They're not told to get a job. They're getting a free ride on us, and we're paying for it. And they come in and they say, well, yeah, this is my wife here, and this is my sister, this is my cousin, and this is my cousin. Actually, that's all 4 of their wives. And then they have 12 or 15 children, and we pay for their medical care on welfare. This is what is happening today. And Islam does not believe in gambling. Gambling is a sin. It is haram. Haram is forbidden. Gambling is forbidden. Insurance is a gamble. So they don't buy insurance. They're not required to buy into Obamacare. We're going to pay for their medical care forever because we are the filthy kafirs and we owe it to them because we're not one of them. That is what Islam is about. That's what they're trying to bring to our country. I'm working with a group of other patriots down in Southern California, some of us in Florida, some in other states. We call the Counter Jihad Coalition. We've been kind of quiet, kind of low key for the last 4 or 5 years, but we're building up, and we're preparing to expand, develop a big website, and get out there and start working with a lot of people, because the Act for America, which is a wonderful organization, it goes out, thousands of people join, they go to the ACT meetings, they get an education. They have a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. doing a wonderful job, but that's about it. The people I'm involved with, we're getting out there and we're getting in the faces of Muslims in different places, and they do not like us. I've worked against a mosque that they wanted to build in Temecula. They didn't get very far with it. They've still got the permit, but they just have a slab, and that's all they've gotten in 5 years. I've worked with people in Philadelphia, in Minneapolis, in St. Cloud, Minnesota, where they were faced with people that wanted to build a mosque. They'd heard about what we did in Temecula. They've come to me. I've given these people advice in each situation. Each one was a little bit different. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you do it. This is what you need to do. And they did it. And in all 3 of those places, the mosque applications have been withdrawn. So we can block mosques because they are not necessarily a house of worship. 4 or 5 weeks ago, a mosque in St. Paul or Minneapolis was blown up, and several people were killed and injured. One of the facts, and I've written to the fire department in Minneapolis, my old hometown, because I care. So what you encountered was what is called a rabat. Every mosque is a center for Islam. Every mosque is a place for planning and organizing the assaults and the conquest of us. Every mosque has a rabat. A rabat is an armory, and every once in a while these guys blow themselves up in their armory. But they do have weapons, they do have explosives, so if you're a fireman and you ever go into a mosque that's on fire, be prepared, because you're going to encounter that kind of hardware and material. If you're in law enforcement, it's the same thing. You have to worry about it. I'm going to go off a little bit away from Islam. I'm going to talk about Benghazi. Well, it's political, but it's Benghazi. When I was in the Navy, my first posting was in Sicily, Sigonella. And we used to fly patrol craft out of there 140 miles an hour, and it would take about 2 hours and 15 minutes to get to Benghazi. I've been to Benghazi. We had a situation on 9/11. By the way, 9/11 is a very significant date. They blew up the Twin Towers on 9/11. They hit us in Benghazi on 9/11 because 9/11 is a very important date on their calendar. Because when they were back in the 18th century, I think, they were going after Europe, and they were at the gates of Vienna. They were about to conquer Vienna. And the Polish king, I forget his last name, came out of Poland and brought the Hussars and others with him. They joined with the Europeans, and they defeated the Islamists or the Muslims at the gates of Vienna on 9/11. So that's a date for them to exact revenge. Every opportunity they will do that. We had 4 people killed. There were 30 other people there. We don't know nothing about them yet. It's been a year and a half. None have been able to go and testify to Congress. They're being blocked. They're being intimidated. They're being coerced to keep from telling us the truth about what happened. But there's enough to tell because I worked in embassy security, and I've seen pictures, and I've seen videos, and I've seen reports. They did not have sufficient security there. If I was the security officer, I would have shut that operation down and kicked the ambassador out, and I would have faced the consequence, but I would not have had people die on my watch. They did not provide security for those people. They had reports that bad things are coming. All the other Europeans had closed their offices and gotten out of there. Even the Red Cross and other international organizations said, we're in trouble here. This is a bad situation. And we kept that office open. We had the CIA in there. For whatever reasons, they had been sent in there to gather all the weaponry, or a lot of the weaponry that had gone into Libya during the war to defeat Gaddafi. And Al-Qaeda wanted that stuff. I think there was a system where Obama had been told by somebody to get that done, and he sent the CIA people in there to get the stuff and send it to Syria via Turkey. The ambassador had met with the Turkish ambassador hours before he was killed. A part of that deal was to get all these weapons over there, and apparently the CIA pulled some weapons out. They were the anti-aircraft rockets. And Al-Qaeda wanted those desperately because they wanted to commit all sorts of mayhem with them. And they weren't getting their hands on them, so they exacted their revenge. They killed the ambassador and attacked our facility, killed 3 other people. Other people were injured, and they have been blocked from telling us what happened. We are the taxpayers. We own the government, and our government is not telling us what's going on. I don't know why, but there's something that got to do with Barack Hussein Obama's name and his affiliation. He grew up, he was indoctrinated as a Muslim in Indonesia, and that is what we have to deal with. He has appointed several people from the Muslim Brotherhood to high positions in the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Homeland Security is really the Department of Homeland Insecurity. And I'll tell you just one thing. About 8 years ago, the Department of Homeland Security set out to map the American infrastructure. Every water line, every electric line, every sewer line, every road, every bridge, every railroad track, everything we have in the United States, and they put it all into one database. It's at the Department of Homeland Security. Who has access to that? Al-Qaeda. They can hit us anytime they want, any place they want. They hit a power plant here a year ago or several months ago. We didn't even hear about it until just recently it got out. They can hurt us badly at will. And our government is not doing a hell of a lot of anything to protect us from them. In Syria, they're having a civil war. They got the Sunni, who are backed up by the Saudis, and they have the Shia, cousins of the Alawites, and they're fighting a civil war, killing each other wholesale. And we had people wanted to go in there and try and make them stop, make them be nice with each other, make them be sweet with each other. They have been killing each other for 1,300 years, ever since the 7th caliph was murdered. They have been at odds, and they will never stop doing that. And as far as I'm concerned, let them have a good time. They deserve it. They deserve each other. If we get involved, no matter how we get involved, we come out on the bad end of the stick, no matter what we do. So why should we do anything? Because they don't like us for not doing anything. They will not like us for doing something. That's what we have to do. And this is a terrible, terrible situation, but this is what we're dealing with. It's going on and on and on. I am focused on Islam. I am focused on politicians who don't understand Islam. We have to teach them. We have to let people know. You have to understand that, for instance, the Saudi embassy in Washington, the Saudis alone, have a $10 billion budget for lobbyists. They have lobbyists all over K Street. They have them down here in Sacramento. They may have them in the different counties. And these lobbyists sometimes don't even know who they're working for, but their boss knows. Anyways, they're getting this money through these third parties, quite often it's called the NAIT, North American Islamic Trust. And they get this money, and then they get the instructions. We have a situation here, and we want you to go to talk to these different senators and congressmen and their staffers, because we want to see legislation for the pipeline. We want that blocked. We don't want to see that happen. We don't want America to have energy independence. So these guys go off, and they say, here, Mr. Congressman, my client is not particularly interested in this pipeline being built out there in the West. And if anything comes up in the vote in the Congress, we would appreciate it very much if you would vote against it in support of my client. By the way, would you like another $75 grand for your campaign fund? They buy the Congress, they buy the Senate, and they're getting away with it. We need to find out how much these guys are getting, who is getting it, and who's saying no thank you. And there are not very many are saying no thankful, but we have to find out. We have to talk to our congressmen. We have to talk to their staffers. We have to ask them the question. And if they don't answer the question, answer it again. And if they don't answer it, you write to the newspapers. You make them feel very uncomfortable. You make them get to a position where they'll say, I better not take that money anymore because I've got a problem with my constituents. And that's what we have to do. That's what the grassroots is about, getting politicians in there who are trustworthy, who have ethical standards, and who will do what we ask them to do, not what some third party or from another part of the world tells them to do with money. Money, money, that's what they have. I want to go on to another one here a little bit. You're all familiar with the Boston Gate. The Tsarnaev brothers threw off a couple kettles with high explosives, blew some people up, killed a few, bloodied a bunch, and created general mayhem. One is dead, one is in prison. They're going to seek the death penalty on him. Well, there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes that you may or may not be aware of. A couple of years before this, there were 3 fellows killed in a suburb of Boston, and the older Tsarnaev brother was apparently implicated in that. He's not big enough and strong enough to kill all 3 of them by himself, so he had some muscle to help him. His little brother was still too young. He was only 15 or 16 then, so he probably couldn't have done much about it. But anyways, these 3 people killed. The Boston police are looking at it, but they're really not pushing it hard because these guys that died might have been drug dealers or something like that, so they're not a high priority. But anyways, we had the blow-up. Some people were hurt. One young Saudi wound up in the hospital. He had a leg wound. And he was a person of interest, whatever that means. But at 11 o'clock that night, the Saudi ambassador telephoned Barack Obama. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the FBI showed up at the hospital to interview this fellow. And they interviewed him for 20 minutes. They said, oh, he's clean, there's no problem with him. And then they took him out of the hospital, took him to the airport, put him on a plane and sent him back to Saudi Arabia. They said they deported him. The FBI does not have authority to deport. That is only the Immigration Service. They expedited his escape from the United States. That's what they did. Take it a little bit further. The investigation went on for a couple of weeks. It died down. People went off to their other assignments. 2 FBI agents who were in Boston were later on a helicopter practicing helicopter deployment onto ships and stuff like that out in the Atlantic Ocean. They do it all the time, FBI SWAT guys. These 2 guys who had worked together in Boston both fell out of the helicopter and died. They were silenced. It was not an accident. I don't believe it's an accident. So, okay. When this killing took place in Boston with the elder Tsarnaev brother, one of his colleagues that he did his mixed martial arts training with, a guy named Toroshev, left Boston and moved to Florida. After the helicopter incident, and probably not connected with it, but some FBI people from Boston and Boston police went to Florida to talk to Toroshev. And Toroshev was interviewed in his apartment at 1 o'clock in the morning with no audio and no visual reporting taking place. And apparently he went off and attacked these 6 big, strong, armed cops, and he died with 6 bullet holes in his torso and 1 in the back of his head. This young Saudi who was escorted out of Boston turned up at the White House last 4th of July for the White House picnic. He is a member where he has 6 family members who are apparently in Al-Qaeda. 2 of them are in Gitmo. The Tsarnaev brothers apparently got their training from Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan or Dagestan, whatever. But this all kind of loosely ties together. But this is the way this stuff works. You have to find the dots and connect the dots. And sometimes there's always somebody going to get there and try and do a second guessing on it. But let me assure you that the Saudis and Saudi money was behind the Boston bombing And it's going to be happening again because they found out they can do it. They were not very successful there, so they'll work for something bigger and fancier at another event of their choosing. And that's one of the problems we have a hard time dealing with because we've got stuff going on in every city and every community all year long in this country, and we don't know where they're going to strike next. But we have to be aware of them. We have to watch them. One of the things you can do right here in this room, you go to church or you go to a meeting, you go and you look around and you see if there are any packages on the floor that are not connected to anybody. It might be a bomb. If you see a backpack stuck in a corner, ask around, does that backpack belong to somebody? No. Call EOD and get the hell out of that building because it could be a bomb. Then that's the way they do it. So you have to be aware. And at the grassroots level, everybody is a soldier watching out for that kind of stuff because that will save lives. We have Iran wants to develop nuclear weapons. I gave a talk a few years ago, and I suggested that if Ahmadinejad wanted nuclear weapons so badly, we should give him a couple, dropped out of the belly of a B-52. We have a government right now that is facilitating their development of nuclear weapons. And, you know, with some of the technology that's available, the Iranians are seagoing people. They have a lot of ships, oil tankers, they have freighters, all that kind of stuff. Well, it doesn't take a lot to take a 10,000-ton freighter or a 12,000-ton freighter and in one of those cargo holds build a missile silo and then sail it off the coast here about 120 miles and pop that thing off. It'll be delivered here in 5 minutes. And we are not prepared to deal with that stuff, especially if it's an EMP goes off up there. We all go dark, and we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble because we can't even talk to the guy down the street without a cell phone. And if the cell phone towers are fried, we're out of business. Islam is here to destroy us. One of the big objections, or one of the big activities they're involved in, is trying to silence people, trying to make us shut up. They get lawyers to sue people like me or Andrew Whitehead or anybody else who speaks out against Islam. That's called legal warfare, and they try and break people. It costs money to sue people. It costs money to defend yourself. You have to hire lawyers. Well, they have unlimited funds coming from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and those places, so they can sue everybody, and pretty soon people are I can't speak out against them. They're going to come get me. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us be silent, and that's our First Amendment right. We have the right to speak out. What I have done, I don't own anything. I don't have much more than a couple bucks in a savings account. Everything is in the name of my children. And it's irrevocable trusts. The judge cannot overturn an irrevocable trust. So if they sue me, I'll be in the court and I'll have a good time, boys. They say, contempt of court. Take me away, judge, because they can't hurt me anymore. They can try to hurt me. They can. Maybe they've threatened to attack me. They've threatened other people, but they can't intimidate everybody. And the more people who are wise to that, we can develop our own ways of protecting ourselves from that type of intimidation, that type of bullying, and then we can go back and push back at them. That's what this group that I'm involved with is. We get in their faces. They don't like it. They have threatened us. They have attacked some of us, but we keep going back at them. And some of us we got one guy goes to their mosques every day and they're scared to death of him because he's too well known. And so they can't do anything about him because if anything happens to him, the police, everybody else are going to know that it was the Islamists who did it to him. If you're loud and outspoken and you're frequently in their face, they are afraid of you. They will try and get away from you. They will try and shun you. But they can't get away from you if you're in there talking to them all the time. And there's a little lady down in Los Angeles, about this big. She's an Egyptian Christian, and some people think she is crazy, but she has more courage than anybody I know. And she'll walk into a Muslim festival with 10,000 Muslims, and she'll start preaching the gospel. That really upsets them, but because she's small, and she's a female, and she's very well known, they don't dare do anything. And that is what people do. She's all of 110 pounds. They could pick her up and throw her over a wall in a heartbeat, but they're afraid of her. She is very, very effective in doing that. There are other people who speak against Islam. There are other people who go out and get in their faces, and they don't like it, and they are more and more finding out that they might just not win this battle if more people get in their faces and go back after them. Islam started out about 1,394 years ago in Jeddah. Not Obama, I keep getting him mixed up with Muhammad. Muhammad walked around preaching his form of the gospel for about 12 years, and he developed about 150 followers. He wasn't having a lot of success. He didn't perform any miracles. He was not very, very Christ-like. So he finally left Mecca in the wee hours of the morning before he got tarred and feathered, and he went to Medina. And in Medina, they were starving. They were hurting. And then he got the idea, well, let's go raid one of their caravans and steal their money. And it worked. And he did some more raiding, and it worked some more, and more, and more. And pretty soon he had an army of thousands, and they were going out and conquering and killing everybody. In the city of Medina, there were 3 Jewish tribes. By the time he finished up, there was not a Jew left in Medina. He killed them or exiled them, and he stole everything they had. That is the foundation of Islam, is pillage. They go stuff and they plunder. They go to any capital, they go to any building, they go to anything. It's one way of plundering is to get us to pay their bills. And they're doing it here. We have to get after our governments. We have to get into this stuff here and say, stop giving them stuff. I'm paying for it. Find out ways to not pay for it. Find out ways to make them hurt so that they can't continue doing what they're doing. People of Islam have a problem living peacefully with their neighbors. If you look at a map of the world, and you look at all the Muslim countries on that map, you will notice that every one of them, wherever they have their borders with other people, there's bloodshed. That's what they're about. That's what they do all the time. They can't live peacefully with their neighbors. They might have to, if they get their butts kicked real hard, they might have to settle down and behave themselves for a while, but eventually they'll rise up and push again, and you have to push back because they will never stop pushing. You have to push back. You can't pray them out of existence. You can't talk to them out of existence. You have to use their tools and their weapons against them, and they're not nice. We have to win in Iraq, we want to win in Afghanistan, but we're fighting wars on their terms, and we are losing. We are bringing body bags home that should never have been sent over there in the first place without a will to win the battle, and we did not have that will. We have to, understand that these people are deadly, they are serious, they are patient. Tariq Ramadan, I don't know if any of you know about him. He gave a speech to a group of about 500 Muslims in Orange County about 1.5 years ago. I went to that and I listened to it because he gave it in English. And he was telling them, we may have obstacles, we may have problems, but be patient, have more babies, overpopulate them. You will win. That's what we're doing in England. That's what we're doing in France. That's what they want to do here. Be patient. Don't get too confrontational too fast. Be patient. We will prevail. That is the message that he gives to people, and he is very, very prominent. He is the grandson of the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, Tariq Ramadan. He's very, very smooth talking. He's very articulate. He gives the message well, and the Muslims really respect and love what he has to say. The plan, of course, is to keep us off balance. Every time you turn around, there's something else coming up. You do something today, something pops up over there. And you turn around, something comes up over there the next day. We have to be flexible. We have to be able to roll with this. We have to be able to pick out our battles and then win in our battles and then start pushing back, let it broadcast out from our point, not trying to respond to everything they throw at us because we can't deal with all of it at the same time. This is what we have to do. What will happen if they succeed? What will replace America if they succeed? Muhammad's instructions on his dying bed were to conquer the world, destroy everybody and everything that is not Islam. If you've ever been to Pakistan, Muslim, Bangladesh, Muslim, parts of Ethiopia, the Somalia, Egypt, all of those countries, what do they share in common? Misery, poverty, ignorance, hatred. That's all that Islam provides for them. It doesn't provide what our God provides for us, love and charity, and a future that we can look forward to. They don't know. Even Muhammad, he told them, men, regardless of what you do, regardless of how you live your life, 20% of you are going to go to hell, just because that's the way Allah wants it. And you women, 80% of you will go to hell, no matter how good you are, no how wonderful. You're just going to go to hell because that's the way Allah wants it. This is what we're dealing with. That is what the mentality is, and they accept it because from the time they're this big, that's all they're told. That's all they're allowed to understand. So people go out and they say, well, these Muslim women, they should get up and run away from this thing. The poor things don't know that they have options. They have been taught from the time they were born that they are slaves of Allah and they are slaves of the men who control them, their husbands, their brothers, their fathers, anybody who is in their life. They are slaves to those people. We have to get out there. Ladies, whenever you see them, don't be hostile to the women. Be friendly with them. Be cheerful with them. And be helpful. Maybe somebody will come along someday and say, can you help me get away from this? Now you got a program going. You're going to have to be very careful about it because people are going to be really unhappy if she tries to break away from Muslim, and her brothers and her father and her cousins and the others are going to come hunting for her to try and kill her. So it's a very, very sensitive thing. But be friendly to these ladies. Let them know that there is something better in this world for them, that they do have options. You can even do that with men. There are a number of Muslim men who are meeting you. They're meeting other decent people. They're starting to come to churches. They're starting to come and they're saying, well, you know, there's something better than what I've been learning and what I've been taught. Maybe I'll try and get away from this, but how do I do it? If they find out about it, I'm an apostate. Muhammad said all apostates must die. So again, you know, there's a stealth jihad. Well, we have to have a stealth Christianity to go out there and help them, to protect them, and to do other wonderful things. And that's what I have. I want to thank you, patriots, all for being here. This is my first trip to Reading, first trip north of Sacramento. And I don't see any palm trees. You've got rain, we have sand, and we have palm trees. So it's very different, very pleasant, and I'm really, really enjoying myself, and so is my wife.